here. But yeah, few are coming down the stairs there yet. But we will get started here. Welcome back. This is the second of the two-part series on Gifts of the Spirit, the work of the materials on Gifts of the Spirit in congregational settings and personal life, the material of the ELCA. And last week we worked a bit on Gifts of the Spirit in the Bible and that sort of thing, and we had a good conversation, I think. But now we're going to more focus on the inventory or reflection on our own personal gifts and spirit. And my partner in this has been Nelse, and Nelse is going to lead us through the inventory. And I'll do what Nels did last week, run around with the microphone, be the assistant coordinator, and Nels will be the presenter. So without further ado, Nels, okay.
Thank you, sir. There's a questionnaire that would ask you to complete. This is not going to be used as a test. There are no wrong answers, so you don't need to be too worried about this. But what this does is it helps you identify the gifts that were identified by the ELCA. And so this is actually a variation of what they've put out on their website. So if you are interested in more material about this, there is that link as well. Now, this has, it looks impressive. It's 60 questions. They're short questions. And when you do these kinds of assessments, the quick way of doing this is my gut response is usually the right one. So when you get, and you're going to score them from 4 being a consistently true, yeah, this almost always fits me, to no way. Okay, so 4 is consistently, 3 is usually, 2 is kind of a, yeah, oh, yeah, and then 1, well, if I have to, and then 1, nah, forget it. Okay, so that's the scoring. So that, for example, here's the first question. When presented a goal, I immediately think of steps that need to be taken in order to make that happen. So in essence, when somebody starts talking about something, you start thinking, okay, if we're going to make cookies for the sake of argument, I need to make sure I have the right, I start thinking in terms of ingredients, in terms of, am I in the kitchen? Do I have a cookie sheet? All of those kinds of things that you need to do to make cookies. And by the way, I don't, but other people do. And so those kinds of things that you need to put to, yes, if that is you, then you would be putting yourself into a 4. If you go, I'm here for the cookies, which is me, then I would be more into the 0. So, like I say, it's like just do a quick, don't overthink them. And there's 60 questions, so it's not too bad. But what we're going to do is we'll take about 10, 15 minutes to finish these 60 questions. Afterwards, we're going to break into small groups to talk about what they are. And between those 2 time periods, I'll talk a little bit about how to do the scoring for this. So there's a touch of math, nothing too serious, 3 numbers that you have to add together. And the highest value will be 3 times 4, which is 12. So that's the questionnaire, and I'll shut up and let you get going. But I should say, if you have already attended church, you guys can read or take the question while I read here. One of the neat things about today's church reading was, while Peter was still speaking, the Holy Spirit fell upon all who heard the word, and believers from among the Jewish people who had come with Peter were astounded that the gift of the Holy Spirit had been poured out even to the Gentiles. So it's an active, dynamic Holy Spirit. So that's kind of a neat thing to think about. That is, some folks think of it as being one and done, but it is a continuous operation. So the Spirit is with us. I'm sorry? Yeah. Just, I didn't write the questionnaire. And if you have any questions or anything like that, well, please feel free and we'll be happy to help you out.
Suppose we feel weakly in the middle. Should we avoid the middle unless,
No,
okay.
if that's where you feel, then I would put it in there. If you feel like you're in the middle of the category that, it's sort of sometimes true, sometimes false, go ahead and put it in as a, yeah. If you have a social research background, it's an interesting experience.
Mine's not as funny as Nancy. Oh, so yeah, that's the only way you can get a score.
In case you want. And for the record, these are your copies. Nobody else will see them unless you choose to share them.
Down there, I didn't.
About 58,
Very good.
when I turn out the lights, take the tables down and the upstairs.
Yeah, the idea behind these questions is the actions that people do and or how they prepare for different tasks. And then given those responses, they'll be able to identify which gifts they fit into. And if you do happen to get done early, then the scoring of them is the next part. So you take your responses for the first 20 questions and you put those into the first column. This from 21 to 40 goes into the second column, and from 41 to 60 goes into the third. And if you're at that point, what I do is I just take the first page and I fold it kind of like this, so that you have my responses for my first questions are, get this right. Here's my first response, my questions for my first response. What I'll do is I'll just fold that over like this, so then I can just take the first 20 and put that into the first column. So that way I don't have to keep fussing back and forth. And then for this, the last two, then I've got them on this page here. So when you get to the point of having all of your questions done, this is an easy way to just not have to keep fussing back and forth between the pages.
Nelse, I don't understand this.
Okay, let me see if I can help you out. All right, so you take your,
Yeah,
so we put 4 right here.
but it
and then
says to put them in the second column. That's the
Well,
first column.
Columns, this is, column 1 is the identifier, then row.
Oh, that's not very clear.
Sorry.
That was the question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so if you have your 60 questions, respond. Okay, so now we take, so the first one would go here, 4, 3. You just write them down, going down to the first 20, and then 21 goes here.
According to these
Well, what this is,
categories.
well, they fit. So the first one goes here under 4, and then the next one goes here, and you just keep on going down.
Oh.
So 4, 0, 3,
Okay,
so forth.
just record them. You
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
all,
to-
that's all you have to do at this point. Right, yeah. That's, the categorization takes place afterwards. Yep. That's why folding it over makes it easy, because then you got all of the 20 responses right there. You don't have to keep flipping back and forth. How may I help you? Let's see. The second column will be a bit of a challenge because half of the questions are on the first page and then the next is on the last page. Yes, ma'am? No.
See, that's
Okay, what we do here is we put,
yeah.
okay, so the first one goes 3, then there's a 4, then there's a
Oh,
2,
that way.
and then we go down, and then we'll go, when you get to 20,
And you stop.
then you go down here for the next ones,
Okay.
and then this is the last 20.
I added.
No.
Understood. And if it's any consolation, the new kids would be saying, where's the computer so that I can do this by cut and paste? I mean, if you really want to watch something fun, watch a 5-year-old try to dial a phone with an old rotary style. They're like, what do you do? Okay. Now, when you get to having all 3 columns filled with the numbers, that's when we get into the addition part. That'll work. Okay. Yeah, that, just, that'll work right there, Emily. So, for example, when we get to the bottom, now, you're still working on it, I get that, but when we get to having all 3 columns done, you need another pen? Oh, that's the website one. Yeah. Now you know why I did it. That's all right. Okay, if you have populated your table, yeah, I'm sorry, we should have had those out, yes. Okay, when you've got those done, now you add those numbers across. Okay, now the way that this is set up, the first question is administration. The second time that that comes back is question 21. The third time that question comes back is question 41. So we add those three questions together, and that's your administrative gift. And it could be anything from 0 to 12. So once you get that part done, and that's as much math as you need to deal with today. So if you have math anxiety, I hope that takes care of it. But once we've done that, then what you go through is you start to take a look and see which ones were the higher scores for you. And the last column on that spreadsheet shows somebody else's numbers and how they scored. So you can kind of see how you would compare, not that we're trying to do comparisons, but it gives you some sense of what is expected or what is in the range, assuming that that person is normal. Let me see if I can help you with that. There is a table in the back, so we can. A place to lay it out and say. Okay. 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 Let's see. Put that down. Okay.
Getting it.
All right. So the first one right here goes 0.
The 0 should go here, okay?
The next one down is
2
right. And
and
1.
1.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Now that you've done the tallies, you can start to look at those values to see where you might be. And as I said, there's an example there. And
Supposed to do our top ones in the middle
yep,
and write the words in there, like
yeah, that way you can have them so you don't have to sit there and try to figure out what, just what is the character that's been identified, the trait. So let's say for the sake of argument that you have, you get 12s in exhortation, faith, and giving. Those you'd want to put in the center then, because those are the highest ones possible. All right. To build up. Exhortation means to build up and or to help lift up, to offer praise for somebody. You know, like for the sake of argument, your kids cleaned up their room. You said, "That's a great job, guys." That's an example of. You know, in some cases it was fiction, but okay. The other two, we look to see if there are of the ones that are remaining. Then you look to see if there's a group of them that are kind of in the same values, and we'll put those into one circle, and then the remainder we put in the other one.
we write the word
Yeah, I would suggest the words because that makes more sense.
and you want the highest ones in the middle.
Right. and then we'll touch on interpretation in just a moment. So you take your highest scores and you put the labels in here, top 5. So let me take a look and see. Okay, so we've got here, you got a 7, so that would go, your 7 would be leadership. Yeah, just write the word leadership there.
Okay,
So,
so
so
this would be what, 7 or more?
and there's an 8 there. And so that would be exhortation. Okay. Okay. So we're going to focus on those that have a score of 7 or more, and that's where we're going to put those things in. And this is as hard as it gets, guys. What's that? I should. Okay, so again, if you have once you get to them out, you want to look for those that have a total score of 7 or more, and write those words, the highest ones, in the center. And then we'll kind of deal with the other ones. And the write-up that goes below that is what was done for the example. Okay, so you got,
Am I
okay,
doing that right?
so administration is definitely in there. And then,
What about the 9s?
okay, so we've got evangelism and exhortation and mercy,
I got that.
okay? And,
Vocal should be in there, music.
okay.
I
and-
didn't, see, I didn't do that.
No, you're doing fine.
No, but I mean, I should, you know,
Okay, well, what we will do then is we'll take a look and say, okay, of these, which one of these kind of belong together? And which one is kind of related over here? And then we can kind of. Yep. Okay, so what do you got? Let's take a look.
The ones over 7 I put here.
All right.
Now what?
So we can, if there are, let's see, you got leadership service, so we can see there's kind of of these here, they seem to be going into 3 different groups. So you have leadership is service, giving, and administration. You could say that all of those should stay there. Then you've got vocal and mercy. You got mercy, faith, writing, and giving could go in another one, and then the other will be left. So
Okay, so we're only putting the ones above 7. in the
right,
circle.
yep, yep, exactly. Because because the idea behind this is not everyone's going to have all 20 of the spiritual gifts that are listed on the document. If you did, why would you need to have a community? So, don't get too freaked out by it. And if you would like.
Yeah, I mean,
You bet. Okay. I'm hearing some chatter, so that tells me that you're at the point where you're almost ready to start talking about these things.
Meaning that it's easier if it's like 0, 1, 2 or 11, 12. That's easier.
Right, and that's why,
Sixes and sevens.
yeah, but that's why they want you to focus on 7 and higher. So, what I'm going to have you do now, okay? Well, you guys are already doing this to some degree. Just kind of chat among yourselves, among your scores, and seeing, first of all, of the ones that are your highest scores, does it make sense? Does it feel like a fit? So let's say, for the sake of argument, you got 12 in exhortation, faith, and giving, and all 3 of those were 12s. Does that feel right? If it feels right, okay, great. They have identified that as a cluster, these are gifts that you've put together. Now, again, not everybody's going to have 12s all the way across the board for all of them, and we wouldn't expect that. And the other side of it, you know, and
Pastoring score was incredibly low.
so, just kind of, take a look at them, see if they make sense, and then break into small groups and talk about them. There's some discussion questions on the next page. So the first question is, are you surprised by any of these results? In terms of the top, the highest scores that you got, when you put them into the list that they had, which was the column 1, are you surprised? And then there's the next question was, why were you surprised? And do you think that your gifts have changed over time? Some of us have lived life a little bit. Some of us have lived life a little less. But have the gifts, when you were 20, if you can remember that, would your scores be the same, do you think? Or have you changed in some ways? When I was in high school, I used to love to sing. Now the only way I carry a tune is in a bucket, because there's a lot of rust on the pipes. Okay, but so your situation changes, and so because of that, the gifts may also change. So just kind of work. You're sitting with or near other people. If you could break into those groups and just kind of chit chat among yourselves in terms of those first couple of questions, and then we'll continue on. Okay.
somewhere in that. I still,
There's some additional questions in terms of, and activities that follow after the initial questions there. And there's some suggestions as to where the different gifts that you possess might be of use in a church. These are written, might be of use. So that, let's say for the sake of argument, that music instrumentation was one of your higher gifts that was given. There are people and entities that would love to know about that and would be very interested in having you, if you are willing to share that gift with us. There are vehicles to make some of those things happen. And so this is a way to start thinking in terms of, at the moment, with my gifts as they are now, where might I fit in? And that's kind of exciting, because one of the things that I think is really neat about this is the fact that the spiritual gifts take into account of who you are now. And, you're not the same person that you were 20 years ago. And you're not the same person that you will be. But so the gifts can shift a bit. But this gives you an opportunity to think about them. There's also some exercises in terms of sharing this with others to see, does this kind of make sense? Does this fit? And now that I have kind of a feel for what I have, where might I utilize these gifts here or elsewhere? And so at the risk of sounding a little like a bit of a heretic, I have good company. I am a Lutheran. The concept of these gifts moving outside of the church and into the community at large is kind of an exciting concept. So, it's not just here, although this is a great place, but there's other places where these gifts can be manifested as well. And I think we're kind of coming toward the end. Anything else that we should talk about in terms of gifts? Well, first of all, what did you guys think of this? What was your initial reaction? Was this crazy? Poorly organized? Who was the maniac that came up with this? Did I come up with these questionnaires? No. Yeah, but there is a website where you can get more into this. I think that's included in the materials. But no, but I did find that this was on the ELCA website, and I thought it was interesting because we don't usually talk about our spiritual gifts in the Lutheran Church per se. We acknowledge the Spirit, but we don't usually talk about it in terms of how I have been a recipient of it, and how I may be able to help others with that gift. So that's kind of a different approach. Yes, sir.
I think that we,
Yep. There you are, sir. Thank you.
I think we're working on the ministry wing to expand where we've been successful and where we want to do more. And then when that starts to have an impact on us, then we'll think, oh, but now we don't have as much of this. And so it's an ongoing thing. We never finish. And we keep getting additional people, and we want to embrace the people who, not just the way the church was, but we want to embrace. So we want to keep doing this. So we want to change that room into something different, and we want to have flexible space or whatever. And I think that's a good sign, but it means we're never done.
Right. Yeah.
We're always growing. We're always taking on new people or people in new roles or all those kinds of things. I mean, I think about when women weren't pastors. Women were Sunday school teachers. And now anybody's a Sunday school teacher and anybody's a pastor.
And, and in that same vein, we change ourselves. And so we're a dynamic process onto that.
Yeah, just think of yourself as a building project. You're being remodeled constantly.
Yeah, I mean, the mountain removal project is just about finished over here.
Okay, anything else? Well, thank you very much, Nels, for all your work on the ELCA
Well, thank you.
gifts inventory. Just
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
And Emily, for next week, what is on the topic?
The video on sacred spaces. Yes, okay.
Okay.
We'll see you next week, 9:15.
Okay. Thank you, folks, and have a wonderful day. And I believe there is an activity at a zoo that you may want to partake in. And I certainly